Hello, I'm Reverend Rick, and it is my honor to be with you today. We really hope that this video is a blessing to you. And if it is, please consider making a donation. People watch our videos locally when they cannot necessarily come to church throughout the United States and the world. So please join us and click the link below and make a donation. Thank you, and let this be a blessing to you.
Let us prepare ourselves. Put your hand over your eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
Your ears, I open my eyes to hear the spiritual truth today.
I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today.
Now over your heart, extend out your arms. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that everything you can see, hear, touch, and smell has been created twice. Everything you can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell has been created twice. So the chair you're sitting in, created twice. The neighbor next to you, created twice. The clothes you're wearing, created twice. The instruments up here, created twice. The musicians that play the instruments, created twice. Everything is created twice. The way that Lao Tzu, the father of the Tao, says it is this: all being is formed of non-being. All being is formed of non-being. Now we're in week 2 of a little series that we're doing called Wishes Fulfilled, based on a book by Wayne Dyer. Many of you have heard him and listened to him on public radio and read his books. He's a wonderful metaphysician, and he wrote a book called Wishes Fulfilled, outlining 5 technologies of manifestation. And the reason that he calls them technologies of manifestation is because they can be learned and used and learned and used and used and used and perfected and used some more. They're very practical things. But here's the thing. In order to master the technologies of manifestation, we have to move ourselves from being a spark of God to being the full Monty. We have to move ourselves from having a higher power to being a higher power. Now look, for some of us, this is a heavy lift. Because, as I've said before, I've been in metaphysics a little bit longer than I've been in Catholicism. And it's very scary for me to go around saying, I am God. It feels sacrilegious. Because when I run up against that for myself, I have run up against a misunderstanding, a misguided understanding of who God is in my life. God in my life is joy and abundance and peace and love and wholeness. It is not a controlling person in the sky. If I can let go of the sometimey God, the God that gets mad at me sometimes, the God that I can't depend on sometimes, if I can let go of that and begin to understand who God is, which is simply an energy of love and abundance and wholeness in my life, it's much easier for me to begin to understand it. You know, we believe that God has an operating system, and that's the whole reason we exist at Centers for Spiritual Awareness, is to understand how God's operating system works in our lives, so that we can not only know who God is, but we can feel the presence of God inside of us. Jesus said, "Do you not know you are God's?" He said that because he believed it and he lived from it in his life. So we're going to practice this, because here's the thing. Unless we get this foundational belief, and I'm going to get to the first of the technologies in a minute, but unless we get to this first thing, this foundational belief that we are God, that we come from God, not go to God in our life, then what I'm doing with these technologies is giving you nails without a hammer. It's useless. We have to get this. So we're going to practice it. And here's the thing. If you feel uncomfortable, because I still feel uncomfortable, I still worry. Is Sister Mary Margaret going to come get me if I So anyway, everybody repeat after me. I am God.
I am God.
We're going to say it again. I am God.
I am God.
You want to improve your ability to manifest the kind of life that you want, the kind of life that God wants for you in this world? Practice that every single day, all week. And if you feel yourself getting kind of nervous, know that what's happening is you have a misguided understanding of who God is. See, we don't want, we're not bubble-headed enough to think that we are all of God. We're not all of God. We can't even wrap our heads around how big God is. But God is all of us. And when we can begin to walk in that consciousness, that's the consciousness in which manifestation becomes easier for us. So let's get to the first of the technologies that we're going to talk about in this series. The first of the technologies is your imagination. The location of non-being from which all being flows is your imagination. The location of non-being from which all being flows is your imagination. It's the greatest gift that you will ever be given in this lifetime. You know, Mary Men and Morrissey, we're teaching this class right now called Prosperity Plus 3. It's a 7-week class. It's a phenomenal class. Even if you've taken 1 and 2, this is a phenomenal class. And we're going to teach, I'm not, but I've asked Reverend Rick. He said he might teach it in the spring. So I've just gone ahead and committed him. He's going to teach it. God bless him. It's a phenomenal class. One of the things that she said, because she throws these little things in her teachings, she said, look, everybody knows about imagination. We know what an imagination is, and we know we have it. What we don't know is the power of our imagination. And that's what we're going to have to really work with, is realizing that our imagination is the beginning of all the power that we have. Many of you are familiar with the Henry David Thoreau quote that says, if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with success unexpected in uncommon hours. You know, haven't you all had that experience where something great has happened to you and it wasn't even on your radar? You thought, wow, this came out of left field, but it's so great. It didn't come out of left field. It came in your uncommon hour. It came because previous to that you had moved boldly on some level of consciousness in the direction of your dreams. How many people here remember, and we have to be confident about it, we have to be boldly about it. How many people here remember listening to Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Plan speech? Nobody. Because he never made such a speech. His speech was, I have a dream. I have a dream, a specific dream, that small black girls and small black boys and children will be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Now, is his dream realized? Not yet. But we moved closer to it. The universe is helping us move closer to it with greater dialogue and more understanding of one another because he had that dream. In order to meet success in your uncommon hours, we have to do 2 things. We have to dream, and we have to live the life we're imagining. We have to live the life we're dreaming about. Albert Einstein says that imagination is much greater than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination will take you anywhere you want to go on the planet. So the greatest gift is imagination, and it has to be protected. It has to be nurtured. And Dyer offers some specific rules. So those of you who are note takers, now's the time to get your pencil out. These are 4 specific rules to nurture and protect your imagination. The first one is this: never, ever place in your imagination anything you do not want to materialize. Never, ever place in your imagination anything you do not want to materialize. Now, my mother was a worrier, and worry is a very effective form of imagination. It's not a helpful form, but it's an effective form. Her worry was that she was going to die alone in the poorhouse. And Although my father, his health in the end wasn't great, and so the worry got a little worse. But we said, look, Mom, Dad worked from the time he was 16 to the time he was 62 on a shipyard. He has a great pension plan. Those death benefits are going to go to you. You're going to be fine. And she still was worried, and we'd say, and besides which, you've been a florist all your life. You have Social Security. You're going to be fine. And if all else fails, you have 3 children, and 2 of whom I'm sure will take you in. And I don't even feel a little bad saying that. Never place in your imagination anything you don't want to materialize. You know, I work with too many women in counseling sessions who are worrying about their significant others cheating on them. Never put in your imagination anything you don't want to materialize in your life. The second rule is never allow your imagination to become contaminated with ideas of how life used to be. Many of us in this room, including myself, have made messes out of our lives. My 20s were a mess in my life. And some of you have had messes in your life. If we dwell in our history instead of in our present and in our future, we will always be ordinary. You will never be able to use the technology of manifestation. You will never be able to have that great life that God has designed for each and every one of us. Whether you've done time in prison, or whether, like me, you've spent time in the gutter behind drugs and alcohol, or maybe you've just pulled the curtains around yourself and isolated yourself because you had the bug of not enoughness. Whatever the reason is, we need to let it go now. We need to be able to step up, because right now, this minute, this Sunday, we can begin to step out and use our imagination for success. No previous experience in your life can damage your imagination. No previous experience in your life can damage your imagination. What can damage your imagination, though, is the notion that you may have about yourself that there's something about you that you can't help. There's something in your nature. I'm too sensitive. I just can't help it. Oh, I'm just not good with money. I just can't help it. Oh, I scream at my kids all the time. I just can't help it. It's my nature. That's not true. Stop saying it. Stop saying it. It's not true. There's nothing in your nature that is not positive. We've learned behaviors. We can unlearn those behaviors. How do you say it? You say it like this: I am God. You replace the notion of I'm too sensitive, I am God. I'm not good with money, I am God. I am screaming at my kids all the time, I am God. Now look, this is not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. We have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it until it becomes second nature to us. The third rule is, remember, your imagination is yours and yours alone. It's a vast, boundaryless realm which only you have access to. It's inside. Only you have access to it. Nobody can peek into your imagination and put things in there for you to be thinking about. Nobody can extract anything from your imagination unless, of course, you allow them to. Your imagination is your private domain. Doesn't belong to anybody else on the planet. Now, it doesn't mean that other people can't influence you and your imagination, but in order for them to influence you and your imagination, you have to give them permission. You have to allow them to be able to do that. It's helpful if every night you will take an inventory of who might have impacted your imagination. and just hang a sign, do not disturb. Do not disturb my imagination. This is mine, and stay out of it. Number 4, the last one. Do not let your imagination be restricted by the current condition of your life. This is probably the hardest one to do. Do not let your imagination be restricted by the current condition of your life. Or as Dyer calls it, being obsessed with what is in your life. If you want to elevate yourself to becoming a manifester, if you want to bring into fruition what God has intended for you in this life, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in the presence and the power that you have. When you hear yourself say things like, well, this is reality, nothing I can do, it's just life, it's what happens, it's what life is. What you have done is just turned your divine inheritance back in to the universe. You just said, I don't want this. It belongs to somebody else. Let somebody else have it. So be careful, listen to what you're saying. If you're saying some version of, this is how life is, it's just what it is. Remember, what you've done right now is just turn your divine inheritance back in. You don't have to worry about an external devil getting your good, because your internal devil just did it. And your internal devil is your limited thinking in this life. In order for us to be able to be different tomorrow than we are today and we were yesterday, something has to change. And that's true of our imagination as well. We have to keep refining our imagination and filling it with good, exciting thoughts in our life. One of the things that will help us say is, instead of saying this is just the way life is, or this is what I've got in my life, is to begin to say this phrase, in my mind, I am where I want to be right now. In my mind, I am where I want to be right now. Remember, God never said to Moses, tell him I will be. He said, tell him I am. Tell him I am. Because he wanted us to know that we needed to do this not in the future, but begin through our imagination to take on the mantle of success right now. We have to be able to be careful about how we share this imagination because it's so powerful. You know, I have things in my imagination that right now I just keep to myself because I don't want anybody else's fear for me. And you know, when people put us down and they put our goals down and they put our plans down and they put our dreams down, most often what they're trying to do is protect us from disappointment. I don't want anybody protecting me from disappointment. And I don't want anybody protecting you from disappointment. If you have to be disappointed, it's okay, you'll get over it. But to protect yourself from disappointment means that you're not willing to take the risk to imagine a life that will be met with success in uncommon hours in our life. So I want us to be careful about letting other people. You know, many of you remember the story of Naomi, the little 6-year-old girl in New York City who was drawing a picture, and her mother came over and said, Naomi, what are you drawing a picture of? And she said, oh, Mom, this is God. And an adult, being an adult with an adult brain, said, well, honey, nobody really knows what God looks like. And the kid, without missing a beat, says, well, they will in a minute. That's what we want. We want that level of confidence that we can say, well, my imagination has told me this, and people will see it in just a minute. So to recap, let's just do some recap here. Number 1, become adamant about your imagination being private. Keep everybody else out of your imagination. Speak reverently to your imagination. Pay homage to it. Be in gratitude for your imagination. Secondly, don't place any limits on your imagination. Whatever you want, imagine it. Don't worry about how you're going to get it. God has your back. A plan will be revealed to you. Don't try and figure it out. Just imagine it in your life. You want a fabulous vacation, how you want to go on vacation, not how anybody else wants to go on vacation. You have that imagination. Don't worry about how you're going to pay for it. Don't worry about who's going to go with you. Don't worry about whether you'll fit into the bikini or not. Don't worry about any of it. Have the vision. And don't let anybody else get in it. The last one is invite God into help. You know, one of the problems with metaphysics is we have mistakenly believed that we have to go out and grab stuff. If we want to be successful, we got to go get it. No, we don't. We have to welcome God's bounty into our life. We have to develop an attitude of welcoming, not of grabbing, in our life. And when we do that, it shows up in our life. And remember today's spiritual principle. Everything you can see, taste, hear, touch, hear, and feel has been made twice. Always. No other way. And we need your imagination to continue to